Hello and thanks for joining us on Daily Politics. This is a program that engages issues around policy, politics and governance. My name is Shafiu Suleiman. And on the platform this evening, we're looking at developments, especially in the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC. This is not in isolation. We are looking at the general atmosphere, talking about the political temperature of the country ahead of the major political parties' presidential primaries. Now, recall that the APC had to, suddenly postpone its presidential aspirant screening. It was scheduled to hold today, but has to be postponed till tomorrow. That is Tuesday, 24th May 2022. This has already, sent shivers around some political camps, especially of the presidential aspirants. It is also coming at a time there has been concerns with regards to the possibility of adopting, a consensus arrangement for the presidential primary. This, among several other developments, we're going to be looking at on the platform this evening. And I have guests in the studio. In the studio here, I have Shehu Atta, is an APC stalwart. He's also a member of the Tinubu support groups, one of the groups. And also in the studio, we'll be having Mr. Fidelis McLever, who is the investigation editor of the Daily Trust newspaper, to discuss these issues. Also via Skype, we will be joined by Onugu Mohammed, who is the Chief Press Secretary to the Kogi State Governor, Yahya Bello. Together, we'll be looking at these issues very closely. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming to the studio.
It's my pleasure.
Right. Okay, let's go straight into the discussion. Let's start with you. Okay. I have a critical stake. The fact that you belong to one of the camps talking about the Tinubu support groups.
The Tinubu School to School. I'm the co-convener of the Tinubu School to School.
Okay, School to School.
Yes.
That's right. Okay. There has been some level of apprehension on the part of the aspirants. Some would say, I don't know how much of this can be felt in your camp with regards to the sudden postponement of the screening, even though it's now to hold tomorrow. How did you receive this news in the first place?
Thank you for having me this evening. First of all, APC is a party that is highly organized in terms of foresight. We want to see that at the end of the day, these primary elections are conducted peacefully and in a very open way, leading to the screening, it was postponed because just to give time for the organizers to conduct a proper screening for the presidential aspirants. And like we all know, it's already on the news that by tomorrow, the screening will commence and it's going to go across board to all the aspirants.
So in other words, there wasn't any cause for alarm. You didn't feel, you were not really jittery about it?
In view of the number of candidates or aspirants that has purchased the form, it's unprecedented in the history of Nigeria to have this high number of people contesting for the presidential seat. It also shows that APC as a party is doing very well. For a single party to have such a large number of aspirants vying for a seat, it shows that Nigerians has so much confidence in the party.
Yes, we're talking about 28, presidential aspirants who have submitted their forms, to the party. Just coming to that, looking at the number and perhaps the calls for some sort of consensus now. I've heard the former speaker, Nimeji Bankwele, talking about modified consensus where the party should engage, stakeholders and what have you, perhaps so that some of them can be made to, have, I mean, either step down or something like that. Do you see this happening, looking at the atmosphere? Aspirants are already, around the country, moving from one state to the other, trying to combat support from delegates.
Well, to me, I think it's very, very difficult to achieve that arrangement of consensus at this point in time, given the spirit atmosphere I'm seeing in each of the camps, trying to grab the ticket. And like you said, the sheer number of aspirants that have come out to purchase this form, that huge number, I do not see most of them yielding to the issue of stepping down or saying they will do consensus. Of course, there could be some agreement in certain areas, but in the long run, the number that will be left will still be huge. So
despite all,
so I see a situation whereby by the end of the day, we'll be going into the primaries with a very large number, especially from the ruling APC. Because that is where the scramble has taken a very serious dimension.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, I think the consensus arrangement may be very difficult at this point in time.
Okay, coming back to the back and forth, it is not the first time we've been hearing about this. Right from the days of the convention that took place, there has been a lot of postponement, about 3 or 4, instances, and here we are with, despite the tight, schedule, so to speak. Political parties are racing against time, and yet the APC is postponing a very important exercise like the screening for 24 hours, so to speak. Even though it wasn't that long initially, some people felt it's going to be indefinite because they didn't mention the date that it will be taking place. But now that they've mentioned it's going to take place tomorrow, but yet, what brought about the sudden, postponement remains a serious concern, among. So, what do you make up with all of these inconsistencies within the APC? What could have led to all of that?
Yes, sincerely, if you ask me, even though I'm not part of the National Working Committee, so I might not be privy to some information, But then, sincerely, if you ask me, considering the huge number of aspirants that has purchased the form for APC, it needs a lot of organization, and it needs a lot of, it needs to bring a lot of these candidates together to do proper screening at the end of the day.
Well, screening has already been done, so it's just about, it's left for the party to now announce the date for screening, and all of these things are even known because there is a timeline. So.
But definitely, like we all know, the party has rescheduled the screening for tomorrow, on 24th of May. So, and hopefully it's gonna be get done, and we'll move forward from there.
Yeah, looking at your camp, there are several camps, but your principal, talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been very consistent. He's been moving around the country. Some will say perhaps must have traversed more number of states than other aspirants and so on. It shows that he's still upbeat about his chances. But at some point, there are also speculations that he's also looking at another option, that is in the case it didn't work out, the way he expected, talking about the presidential. How through is this?
Our party leader, by the special grace of God, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is one of the founding fathers of this party, APC. And like you rightly said, since January that he declared, since January, he has been traversing the length and breadth of this country to consult with critical stakeholders, traditional rulers, party leaders, governors, So he has virtually toured all the states. And I will say confidently that going by the tempo of the activity that has happened over time, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is well positioned to clinch the APC ticket. And we know the party will do the right thing, because anything short of that is a recipe for chaos. You get, and we know by the special grace of God.
Even though we don't pray for that,
we don't pray for that.
You were talking about democratic contest.
So,
here you are talking about consensus arrangement and what have you.
What I'm saying now is that we know our party is going to do the right thing. You know, it's either going to be the direct or the indirect primary votes. And going by either of these, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our camp is ready for the primary election. And I can tell you we're going to come back with a victory on that.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing the implications of rising violence in southeastern Nigeria. So, Mali, let's start with you. As you know, what explains this surge in almost every day now? You find that there's report in the news about people getting killed, particularly in Imo or in Anambra. What are the factors that may be influencing this rise in violence in the states?
Well, we can only conjecture, yeah, but because we cannot lay our hands on concrete facts and figures. In the absence of those, we can only conjecture. And in conjecturing, we have to look at the issues on ground. I think for quite some time now, the leader of the IPOB has been in government custody. He has been going for trials and adjournments and all kinds of things. News have been filtering into the public space about how he's been treated, about how he's not been treated properly and things like that. And we are also getting into the thick of the political season. And of course, some of these issues are going to come into the fray because apart from the fact that he is, one of the leading political figures, even if in detention of the South, he's a spokesman for Southeast issues. He is also one of the people who, for good or bad, will influence the politics in the area as it is coming. And of course, some of his lieutenants are feeling that he should be out, or whatever he is reported to have committed should be allowed to come out and be free, or his trial must proceed expeditiously, so he could come out and be part of the political scene. So now that perhaps is what is fueling this, because it's like the people who are aggrieved, his followers, feel that look, without him, the politics of the Southeast and of Igbo land is not complete, or may not be complete. And in the absence of the governors and the leading political figures of the area seem to have hands off the whole thing, and they are looking the other way, more interested in their political causes than in taking up this matter. So the gap is being filled by people or his lieutenants who feel that, look, why should you be interested in politics or in pursuing your political careers while our leader is being detained? And we cannot let you have peace if you don't, if you don't work towards the release of our man. And of course, when Soludo came to power in Anambra, there were initial hopes that he was going to help because of the statements he made. But somehow, some of the issues, some of the policies he pursued, they the leaders of, the lieutenants of IPOB came to realize that it was not it was going on the trajectory that may not be, in favor of their cause. So they're trying to let him know that, look, we are going to compete with you in whoever is who holds the power stakes in Anambra State and perhaps in Igbo land.
Interesting. So, Dr. Kath, one implication of what Marlon Lieso has just said now is that we have now got to a point where Nnamdi Kanu, the IPOB leader, or at least his arrest, is now in a position to influence political events, including violence and killings in southeast Nigeria. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree. Malami Yeleasu is very correct. In the first language it said conjectures.
Okay.
These are conjectures. That's why when you say killings, and I say, where are the evidence? There are killings, and I condemn those who do these killings, and I condemn also those actions. But we don't have evidence as to who is doing it. Why do I say this?
Okay.
In the year 2020, crisis started brewing in IPOB. And in that year, at around October, November, Nnamdi Kanu sacked his number 2, called Uchemefo. And most of us here in Nigeria started listening to those crises in London. My word was, if this organization is going to splinter, it will be a problem. It will become something nobody has control of, and that will bring its own. When Uchemefo now returned back to Nigeria, he teamed up with Asari Dokubo, and they formed what they called the Biafra Customary Government.
Asari Dokubo of the
Niger Delta
Movement.
People Volunteer Force.
Yes.
He now teamed up with Uchemefo, and they formed the Biafra Customary Government. Okay. Now, we started seeing those splits, not just from stories of what happened in London. We saw them now take root in operations.
But in general, Asari Dokubo, I think, has been critical of the whole of Biafra movement. He has released videos.
Listen, that is exactly the root of that. Okay. It was when he now teamed up with those splinters, you saw him now started criticizing, editing Nnamdi Kanu. Understand that? Then later on, we now found out that there are over 30 different pro-Biafra groups. And then they got into a business of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That was why you started hearing such words of criticism, like you were saying, and Asari Dokubo started criticizing them. That's where the problem comes. When you have such movements splinter due to implosive infightings, it's a problem. So when the killings started coming and the violence started coming, I asked myself, and I told some friends, I said, this is a problem. Who are we going to say is doing this? Because when you saw those violences, and I knew when the British Home Office then made a pronouncement last year at the beginning that they were not going to provide asylum to those like IPOB and others who opposed Nigeria. Nigerian government was not happy. The Home Office pulled down that document for Nigerian government to bring enough evidence to show that they are right, that those people are a terrorist organization. Don't forget where this problem came. Nigerian government, even before the onset of violence, proscribed IPOB when it wasn't involving violence, just because they were mouthing the word Biafra. And I understand that. Since after the Civil War, nobody mentions such word easily. But now you have a band of new young people just mentioning it. Of course, the government was bound to say, what's going on? I thought we've said this, what's wrong with the young people? But then I also remembered in the handover documents of Biafra, they said, if you don't treat well and you allow the issues that gave rise to the problems come up, the children might rise again. And my mind went there. Just like you saw Justice Odili say the other day when she was retired, that incidences we saw that gave the starting points to crisis in the 60s seem to be occurring. Who do I blame most? President Buhari and his weaponization of nepotism as a policy of state.
Okay.
So that's why I saw both Asari Dokubo, I saw both Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho as all sociological reactions to Buhari's employment of nepotism as policy. Now, as it climbed up...
Excuse me.
Yes.
Maybe most people listening will think you are conflicting two very different and two equally very serious issues together. It is one thing to accuse any government of nepotism, of not appointing, perhaps?
No, not just appointing.
Oh, okay.
The nepotism is everywhere.
Of
even
nepotism,
the ethnic cleansings on the ground, that's also nepotism.
Excuse me.
Those
nepotism
ones is also nepotism, yes.
Nepotism of any
is
kind.
well established.
Nepotism of any kind.
Yes.
You know, nepotism of any kind. But to kill, you know, to kill people, particularly some of your own people, or to attack the state, to burn down police stations, burn down INEC offices and all of that, is that a way to respond to nepotism?
That's where I'm going to. Okay. We don't know who does that. When I told you that the Nigerian government took offense at the British Home Office publication that they were now going to give asylum to those who oppose the Nigerian government. After that was done, within a fortnight, violence rang all over the East. And I was on television. I was on the BBC. I was on channels and on AIT to say, this to me apply like false flag operations. So when the organization now said they are not responsible for the violence, the government said they are responsible, and I know the organization had already cracked. So those who are against Nnamdi Kanu, of course, will behave, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Let me bring Malay Ilassi in. One implication of what Dr. Kayat is saying is that the rising violence in the Southeast is committing itself. That no one in particular is responsible for it. Or that we cannot say that Mr. A or Mr. B is responsible for it. And yet, it is violence.
Yes.
In your understanding of how violence occurs everywhere in Nigeria, especially in the Northeast, where
I don't think right away.
you have violence that is not attributed to any one, violence that just happens.
No, I don't
on
think.
its own,
I don't
just
think,
like that.
I don't think my colleague here is being truthful.
Okay.
And I think it will not help us all if we try to sort of try to behave in a manner that seeks to cover up. I know Igbo fairly well, the Igbo society fairly well. It's a society made up of clans, you know, and virtually every community is aware of who is who and who is what. Because Igbo is a community, or it's a society of, they call it the Republican spirit. So every community, whether it's, you know, Ungwa land, or whether it's Arochukwu, or whether it's Mberi, they all know who they are and they know what they are. If he's from Anambra State, for instance, he knows his India Anambra, and he knows who and who. It's a society of who knows what, of kindred. So if there are any miscreants around, or there are people who are bent on violence, who are bent on disrupting the well-ordered society, you need to read Things Fall Apart to know how the Igbo society is organized. You can't come from anywhere and start doing violence without being found out.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing mediated politics. All politics without media, there's probably no politics. We get to know about the world and about the political world, more importantly, from mass media, from social media, and of course, from our handheld radios and handheld phones. But this also have impact on us. So what impact do they have on us? Maybe we begin with being specific. Dr. Nura, today we had that the candidate for the aspirant for PDP, former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, he said that he has resigned. And one reason he gave several reasons for resigning. One reason he gave is that the violence in Southeast is becoming uncomfortable, is becoming impossible for anyone to make contributions.
That means he's a nationalist.
Thank you. So do you think that the coverage of this violence, you know, in the media so far, in recent weeks and months and years, do you think that that coverage in your understanding, what would you say about how media have handled issues from that part of the
I
country?
think when you look at the media coverage of national issues, national conflict, disasters, and whatever, it's so polarized
Okay.
to the extent that when the thing is happening in the north, the northern media, so-called, they will rally behind the northerners, whether the northerners are right or wrong, they'll just rally behind them, regardless of what the decision will be. When the incident is happening in the south, the same media, the same group of people, they will criticize the same thing that they did not oppose here. But it happens, they do, okay, in other words, I can say our media, they look at the theater of conflict or theater of war from far.
Okay.
When it is with them, they just protect it. So that's why I said the media is so polarized. They are not being nationalistic in their approach. That's why the coverage is inadequate. There's no, whatever. Before you wake up in the morning, if there's a conflict in Anambra, you see it in the social media. If there's a conflict in Kano, it is there on the social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, and what have you. But what we expect from the media is the in-depth analysis, way forward, what the background and what have you. But it's lacking nowadays. They call somebody that has never been out of Kano, and they talk to him about something that is national in nature, and he will end up giving you a perspective that you cannot tell what you don't know. So he grew up in Kano. He's just a local champion there, and he will just sit in the studio and doing his analysis based on his that peculiar knowledge,
Environment.
not that environment. He has never gone out. He didn't know that Lagos is there. He didn't know that Anambra is there. He didn't know that even maybe sometimes he didn't even know that Maiduguri is there. So all he knows that the world starts and ends in Kano. So he will just be it's so myopic in the approach. And what we expect from the media is that they should know that people relied on them, despite the presence of the social media. Incident will happen. Now, throughout today, there's a rumor going on that Buhari has sacked
The CBN governor.
the CBN governor.
Thank you. I will come to that shortly. Dr. Tenenge, these issues have been going on for a while in this country. One of the dimensions, for example, is the use of terms like gunmen do this, gunmen do that, gunmen do that. In the specific case of the Southeast, how does that, what are the implications of that to the ongoing conflict there?
Thank you very much. I think I will comment first on the issue of Peter Obi before I will come to
Go ahead.
this question now. I want to think that our media are so shallow. The reports I have read about his resignation, most of them in different media platforms online that I've seen. Premium Times is the same story. The Cable is the same story. It will start with that statement about writing to national chairman of the PDP, talking about recent happenings in the PDP, making him to, and then ending with the speculation, that speculative quotation that his commitment to rescuing Nigeria still remains very strong, and he will continue to pursue it, even if the way differs, perhaps maybe giving an inclination that he's just dumping the PDP to find another platform to pursue his aspiration.
Yes.
And no other medium for now has given us an in-depth insight into the real reason, whether it's some wranglings in the party, whether
there has been a consensus already, whether there has been an insider zoning already that has taken the thing out of its reach, and so on.
Could this be maybe because the story is just breaking at the moment, and
yes,
it will take some time to...
When we have breaking stories, of course, they may come that promise of details later and so on and so forth. But at least somebody should be different.
Yes.
At least it shouldn't just be recycling of all the the statements that we see as has been the case in many other issues that have happened before.
Yeah.
Now, the issue you asked me about gunmen, unknown gunmen,
Yes.
bandits, and all those, it still depends on how shallow the media are. That most of them couldn't go out to really uncover some of this, because most of these things that happen, they happen in localities where people live. And as we always know, crime that happen within areas, the people around, they have an idea about people who are doing these things. So when we hide under generic names as bandits, as gunmen, we are perhaps maybe aiding these people to assume that status of facelessness to continue to do the things they are doing. And our media men should do better by being specific, naming and apportioning, because there are certain, of course, the task of investigation of crime rests with security agencies, but the media can also uncover specific crimes and even bring it to the notice of the security agencies. And talking about this laziness brings to my mind that same issue about the core member who got missing and was found murdered recently.
Yes.
If you look at the last report that the police released about 3 suspects that were caught, you will see that even on channels, on Premium Times, on the cable, all you will see is the same police statement, even as it is riddled with errors, because you can see ORs written as O's, and in every of the platforms that have brought this, you will see those same things. So it amounts to laziness on the part of the media to report issues in perspectives that could even throw light on the problems we have in Nigeria.
Thank you. Interesting.
And before that, even when there is another angle to the story, hardly you see this media covering that angle. For instance, now you see even the social media, sometimes they are even ahead of the mainstream media. You see when you say unknown gunmen, blah blah blah, and then on the social media you see another person arrested by the police, being interrogated by the police, telling you become satisfied that yes, he is the person behind that, but still the media will be quiet. So
maybe
once they finish with their report, that's all.
You mentioned earlier that the media tends to be polarized in the country. That an idea of northern media and southern media rather than Nigerian media. So what are the reasons for this? What are the factors that fuel this kind of behavior,
I think that
political behavior in the media?
I think it's all from the political elites.
Okay.
When the media was owned by the government, funded by the government, you expect that issue of polarization to be at minimum. But when individuals start investing in media, the media is owned by certain person. He has the right to employ who he wants to work with. So you can expect, because it was inherent in our political elites, they polarize us. They are the same. When they met, they just talk as the same people. Nothing like religion, nothing like culture, ethnicity, all gone. But when they are addressing us, they just broke all this issue of ethnicity, the religious, and culture, and what have you. So they own the media. Or, in other words, they fund the media.
Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing the just concluded PDP primaries. So, Doctor, you're not a politician. You're not in politics yourself, but you follow politics actively, and you follow political and contemporary issues actively. So, there appears a pattern so far in this 2023 election cycle, from the election of the party's National Working Committee. PDP took the first step towards that, and then they took the first step, again with even the sales of nomination forms and things like that. And now they've also taken the first step towards conducting the party primaries, even though, of course, the election will happen on the same date. Does this say something about the opposition or even the ruling party, the PDP as an opposition party?
Well, PDP, probably called the People's Democratic Party and the APC, the All Progressive Congress. They are in the same, what I call the same ecosystem. We're in together. So it's we're not doing politics in the space or in the moon. So we all live in Nigeria. So what goes around, always turns around. What is happening in APC is also happening in PDP. So when they had their convention, PDP did their convention where they elected the officials, and the same happened to APC. They came up with the new leadership, and so the trend has always been who is outsmarting who's doing what, and who tends to do what. So, like I said, in several interviews I've granted across Abuja, in last week, they say that politicians should not waste their time and energy and money, trying to run for office, because the gladiators or the power brokers already know who's going to come out and who's going to win. And based on some political research I've done over time, it's what is happening in Nigeria right now is actually what happened in 2020 in the U.S. election. When the Democrats, came up with say, listen, we need a change of government, and so when it happened, the debate in the Democratic convention, where they have different candidates who came up with, debating on key critical issues about American politics. Nobody believed that Biden, because Biden was just going toward the second, on the last minute,
My point,
Sunday, yes,
is that there's been a pattern that has been set in this election, the various processes and procedures that have, been working out towards the election. And across all of this, first, the national conventions to state and national conventions to elect new party leaders, for the purpose of driving the election agenda.
To the primaries.
Then the sales of nomination forms, and so on, the primaries themselves, and several other procedures and processes. Across all of these, the PDP has tended to be the first before the APC, which you expect as a ruling party will probably be in the lead for this procedure. So the question is whether or not that means something or that says something for either parties.
Well, for me, what's happening in the APC is not a surprise, because it's as a result of the outcome of the political activities that have been going on in PDP over time. So they are following each other. Like I said, I was giving you a classical example of what took place in 2020 in the U.S. election, that brought to fall, Joe Biden, who has been in public office for over 45, 48, 49 years. And the same trend that is happening in PDP is also happening in APC. Whether they want to call it an agreed candidate or they want to go for the direct primaries, which is what's going to happen. They already know who will be the candidate, because if you look at the statistics and the way the pendulum is swinging, what will happen in PDP is the same thing that will happen in APC. So
but
yes.
let me bring Lateef into the discussion.
Yes.
But you mentioned something that I consider quite significant, and I will be taking you back on that.
That's right.
That they already know who will be the candidate.
The candidate, yes.
I will have to, I'm sure we'll come back to that. So do you think it means something, either for the PDP or for the APC, that one party tends to be doing these processes first before the other?
Yes, of course, it means a lot for either of the party. Like you rightly said, the PDP has been ahead in terms of their preparation for the general election, conducting their convention first before APC, and even their primaries, even though there are a lot of issues, with the primaries before the APC. For the politicians, having their primaries ahead of the, ruling party, just for them to get their, house together and see probably where they have issues with who wins and who lose before they now start, reaching out to, the aggrieved aspirants to say, okay, fine, you lose, for this particular position, but, you can still work, for whoever emerges as the party candidate, before the general elections. And, of course, for APC, they have been looking at, the direction PDP is going. If you observe, they have postponed, their primaries almost several times. You see the organizing secretary, trying to issue a statement that, okay, the party, the primaries, senatorial primaries and other primary, they're supposed to be, conducted, earlier, has been shifted. We have different dates, not until today that they started having their governorship primaries. They are trying to look at themselves, the directions they are taking, and possibly look at, aspirants who will be aggrieved, in PDP and see what they can do.
Okay.
To at least woo them to their side. Even though they may not be getting, any elective, position, at least they can get their support and the support of their supporters as well.
Interesting. So, but Dr. Jennings,
yes,
you were saying that the parties know already who is going to be a candidate. I wonder what do you mean?
Well, what actually meant was, like it's like you know the capacity of the strength of someone. You already know the strength and capacity of someone. So even if you stretch that person, he'll be able to carry it. So the political, as someone who is a political strategist and a communication strategist, I understand the political setting of Nigerian, formation. I understand how the Nigerian politics work. You need to understand the power brokers. Who are the power brokers? People who decide who becomes what. You must understand who they are. You must understand their language, their body language, and understand how to play alongside with them, because power is never given. Power is you have to earn it. You have to struggle for it. Nobody who gives you power, no matter how you try to agitate or try to try to make make the noise about it. Because power it's a struggle. It's a competitive struggle. You need to really get to it. It's not something you sit down and someone will give you power. You didn't need to work for it. So those understanding the political setting, those interest groups, the religious, the institutions, the traditional, the military, and the business, those institutions. These people have interest, just like in the U.S. The lobbyists are the biggest enterprise in American politics, because every lobbying group wants his interest to be protected. So you have to understand the Nigerian political setting. So if you're going to be anything in Nigeria, especially for the highest office in the land, you need to understand the aggregatization of the Nigerian political setting. Who are those power brokers? what their interests in this politics, because the politics is never done anywhere.
Let's come down to these
Yeah.
specific primary
Yeah.
elections
Yeah.
that the PDP concluded
Yes.
just yesterday. Even starting from the state houses of assemblies, the House of Reps, then the senatorial primaries, and then the governorships, which so far is the prize, the most important, and then the final one is a few days down the line, which is the presidential one.
That's right.
But
And what I was trying to make a point that,
Okay.
what I mean by already know who's going to be what, the capacity. You don't present a candidate that can't win election.
You're welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing the PDP governorship primaries and the implications of that for the upcoming elections, not only for the presidential primaries, but also for the main elections well ahead. And with me is Honorable Usman Ibrahim. Honorable Sir, the party, the APC, the ruling party, first of all, it is the ruling party, but it is lagging behind the opposition parties in terms of preparations towards these various procedures, in terms of, for example, the convention to even elect a national working committee, in terms of sales of nomination forms, and now in terms of primaries. Is that a pointer to what the elections will be like, that you're going to lag behind the opposition parties even in the elections proper?
Thank you very much, my brother. Let me make a little corrections about. My name is Honorable Usman Ibrahim, National Coordinator, Muhammadu Buhari Oshibanjo Dynamic Support Group. Thank you very much, Suleiman. I think politics is like I always say, process. APC, what APC does is a process. You take it according to how the process will end. And that's what we are in now. Today, you can see that we have, election around the country on National Assembly as the most precisely like reps. And then I think tomorrow or thereabout will be Senate. And then thereafter the major one, which is coming up at the, APC will curtail that, will control that, and it will go on as smoothly as people expect. Inshallah, we'll get it right.
Thank you. These elections, these governorship elections, we started with the PDP, and one of the issues that we saw in the PDP has somehow even become even more intensified in the APC. The issue is having parallel primaries in some states. You have had that more in the APC than in the PDP. Why is that?
As of now, I don't think there's any parallel in APC at which state. No, I don't think there's anyone except a PDP. I heard about Kano or something of that nature, but at least they've settled that one too.
But you have quite a number of aspirants from the APC complaining, some even threatening to go, at least in the newspapers, to go to court with these issues. Would that affect your primary elections, given the tight corner in which all the parties are placed?
Actually, the court goers are normals. They are either in the APC or in the PDP. There is normal in Nigerians way. Some people are just there to come in and dice things and make sure that they go to court. But that is their own business. But politics, right now, as APC is making it, I think is the right direction they were taking. But definitely, you can't control all over. But at least we can see things is going smoothly. So far, so good.
Thank you. But the party, does it have, because your ruling party, the cost is of this kind of crisis at this point, the cost may mean not just losing, even if it may mean losing elections in many states, particularly in states where you're already not strong, where you have divisions, for example, in Rivers, but not just Rivers, in Sokoto, in many other states like that. Does the party have any mechanism, to avert
outcomes that can lead to losing elections later on?
Well, I like I said, it's as a process with its on it, and of course, I believe APC so far so good. I think I read them 90% right now in terms of the mechanism and process and winning elections. I believe that's a Nigerian that can see for themselves. There's no crisis, there's no wrangling here and there and all of that. It is smoothly going.
Thank you.
You see,
Then, go ahead.
some people have, like, you're trying to mention somebody from other party comes down, and it's normal. How many of them come from other party, opposition party, and some of them will flee? So it is very it is making the job easier for us, so that also, yes, we are important and people can come in and so on and so forth. But we, from the support group angle, we look at the capability of the individuals within the party, and that's who want to support the person that will take us to the next level.
Thank you. So, but one of the issues also, which we saw in the case of the PDP, but which is also imagined in the APC governorship primaries as well, is that you now have fewer delegates, than were expected. For example, the presidential election, the presidential primaries were supposed to have 7,800.
But now it's 2,000 something, right?
Now it's not up,
Yeah.
it's just less than half of that.
Yeah.
What does that imply for the process itself?
Well, there's a huge number there. I think I think there's no space to be accommodated, I believe, based on the law and what have you. But I think with the 2,000 and something, I think that's enough for us to make it. Normally, on those days, I don't think it's more than that. I think that's what the fair thing we can do. And of course, we're looking at the party itself, the mechanism they're applying. I believe it's okay. It's okay with whoever think, well, that is what's supposed to be. Let's get this right. We're looking at the capacity and also and how the crowd and things of the nature, something of that nature.
But some in some states, some people are complaining that the delegate list, has been duplicated. You're having a different delegate list than the one they knew at the beginning of the primaries, for example, in Lagos and some other states,
Well, that could be a news item, but I believe, to my knowledge, I don't think I have that information, I believe. So it is normal things. People will complain, and the process will continue. That's what it is.
Thank you. So what about the issue of monetization? For example, in many states, there were allegations that the candidates, the aspirants who emerged as candidates, had those ones that have paid much more money, or the, let's say, highest bidders, as some people have alleged.
You see, in some cases, like a little, some research we made about people's opinion and so. Some people feel democracy is all about money. To some people, but we got time to make them be aware that it's not about money. It's about safeguarding the democratic process of the country. So some of them understand. But if you feel that somebody just say, yes, I'm okay, I'm with you, I'm all of that, if you can have something to give him, that's only their own cup of tea. But I think it's a must, or rather it is a benchmark that must be given like that. People have their own right also to express that, yes, I get money or don't get money, that's their business. But so far, the process is very good. It's excellent. So far, I don't think there's any problem.
Yes, but it's fine for a politician and a party member like you to say the process is excellent, and we understand.
Very excellent.
But maybe Nigerians have a different
they have their own also opinion
of the process.
They can say that that's why we have this freedom of everything. So I believe, even if between me and you now, I just give me some assignment and said, Alaji, you've done well, I'm okay, appreciable, Gagoro. That kind of a thing. It's a nature, woman, But at least so far, APC is doing well. APC is not something that is going viral and people are saying, but people are entitled to their opinion. So far, everything is good.
But people are feeling that the two major parties do not offer Nigerians much choice, in the sense that the processes are similar. The things that Nigerians used to reject in the PDP have continued to do, and the APC have also taken up and is doing even more of that, talking about
paying delegates to in order to have them vote. These are not the sort of things that many Nigerians expected from the APC, or a party that was, you have someone like President Buhari leading. Most people feel that, okay, if anything, this party will give us an example, but maybe why are people still feeling that they are having more of the same of what they used to have in the PDP?
No, I don't think that's true. It's absolutely wrong. The process in APC, I think we can see it is very transparent, and I think we have a Nigeria that express themselves. Take it from somebody who will continue with Buhari, for example. Buhari achieved a lot of achievement, a lot of things that you can see. You don't need to name, but you can see it for yourself that yes.
You can actually name. It's a politics program. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you see, there are many projects he made, abundant. He completed them, and some he created by himself, and he did everything accordingly. And it is only logical one to see that whoever succeeds him will just stop on it and continue with it, and the things will solidify. This is one of the things that Nigerians should appreciate by the president, since he is not a kind of man that who wants to make money. He's here to serve the country. But people felt before it was a business as usual, got that kind of things. Now Buhari closed that something. That is his own crime. That does it. It's open. But for Nigeria now to see in this moment, in this global situation that we are now, Nigeria to reach this level, with being the first African in our economy. Just recent president of former American president was telling Nigeria how our economy is strong and all of that. That's something that Nigeria should applaud, should appreciate. We need somebody that knows that system, so that from there he will just continue with it.
By somebody, I'm assuming you're probably itching to talk about Vice President Osinbajo.
Yes, let me just say it clearly.
Yes.
He's the one deserved to be there.
Okay, we will come to that on the second half of the program. But for now, let's look at the states' primaries that you have had so far, particularly in the states where you have had surprises and in other states where there's not been much surprise. You have about...
I should buy with you right now because you mentioned one already, like that of Niger State.
Okay.
Look at a young man, and because of his goodness and his relation with the people, look at how they elected him. That is a Umar Bago in Niger State. When there's a deputy governor there, that is another case study. That's another example, which is typically that APC is a party to beat. That is one of these things. Then I think other crisis areas that you can see, even a lady from one of the state that emerge, of course, but I'm not from there. I'm not going to speak for them. But that is the process of democratic, of APC that is making it right for people to see that yes, it's a thing that can come and for the goodness of all, and APC party to beat. I'm sure there's a fair play and credible election and whatever. That's what Buhari is trying to offer to us, and we're going to get it.
Yeah, interesting. So what about Adamawa State? This one is interesting for many Nigerians because you now have a woman emerging as the governorship aspirant of that state, and she didn't just emerge as someone who was unpicked. She emerged after defeating 5 men.
That's right.
Some of them very big names, including former EFCC chairman, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, and the immediate past governor of the state, Senator Jibrila Bindo. What makes this possible? Is there anything within the party itself? Is there any kind of support system that the party gives to women to advance them to such elective positions?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That the party is so strong and so ideal about that. No matter the situation, they control it, they curtail the situation, and things will work accordingly, according to the process and what have you. That's why it's surprising for us to see that maybe because of lack of advancing in democratization and what have you, that woman be like us, and the constitution did not deprive women from being there. She can be, and she will even be better than all of them. I think that is a good one, and I think I applaud the APC for that.